Hi, I'm Kurt Ruth, back here with my broadcasting partner Tim Connolly. We're back at Hollyfield Park, where we've just seen John Glenn defeat Norwalk 10-1 in the Suburban League Clash. Tim, why don't you give us a rundown on the final stats?
John Glenn scored 10 runs, 8 hits, and 1 error. Norwalk had 1 run, 6 hits, and 3 errors. Wasn't a real good game for Norwalk, a lot of sloppy play. John Glenn, their pitcher Eddie Navarro, came out real tough, though, and he pitched a complete game. So he did real well for the evening. He threw a lot of fastballs, had a real good game, had a lot of backup from the infield.
Yes, and I thought, once again, the same thing you were thinking. The key to the ball game was John Glenn played defense and threw strikes, and Norwalk didn't quite do the same thing that they had to do. But that's about wraps the game up. For the crew at Norwalk Community Cable Channel 56 and Tim Connolly, I'm Kurt Ruth saying thank you for coming, and please stay tuned for next week's ball game from Gar High School, the Gar faculty versus the Celebrity Stars. Good evening.
Norwalk Community Television presents Basketball Game of the Week. Tonight's game, the Celebrity All-Stars versus the Gar faculty.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Kurt Ruth, and we're here tonight at Gar High School for tonight's exhibition basketball contest between the Celebrity All-Stars and the Gar faculty. It should be a lot of fun tonight, and for more on the game, let's go to broadcasting partner Tim Connolly. Tim?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Gar High School. I'm Tim Connolly along with Steve Burton for the game between the Gar High School faculty and the Hollywood celebrities. This evening, Steve Burton has taken time out to come in and play to benefit the high school class, the senior class of Gar High School. And we'd like to ask Steve a couple of questions right now. Out of your busy schedule, how do you find time to come and play these exhibitions?
Well, usually we tape during the day, and I usually get off about 4 or 5, and which gives me time to come down here and play because I love basketball, love the people. It's just a great cause.
Steve plays on the series Out of This World as Chris Fuller, is it?
Yeah.
Chris Fuller. And he's also appeared on
Days of Our Lives.
Days of Our Lives. Now, which show do you prefer doing?
Well, actually, I was doing both at one time, and since the characters are so much different from each other, I had a great time doing both. But now I'm just doing Out of This World, so I have no choice.
Do you find time to? Are you finished with high school, or are you still going to high school?
I just graduated last year, and I've been working ever since.
Do you have any plans on going to college?
The way I see it is I'm going to work for a couple years first, then probably 90, 91, I'll go to a community college for 2 years. Just to have something to fall back on in case it doesn't go through.
How many hours during the week do you put in on your acting career?
Usually it's from about 10 in the morning until 5 or 6 at night.
So that's a long, tough road. That's 5 days a week or 6 days a week?
5 days a week.
That's a pretty exciting career. How can you tell the audience at home, young people that would like to get into acting, what can they do?
Just, all I have to say is if you believe in yourself and you believe you can do it, you can do it. That's all there is to it, really.
How are your basketball skills? What do you think you're going to do in tonight's game?
I don't know. I've been shooting very badly right now, so I have no idea.
Well, okay, we'll let you get back to hit a couple of buckets and warm up. Steve Burton, ladies and gentlemen. We'll go back to the booth right now. I'm Tim Connolly.
Okay, anytime, Tim.
Good evening, I'm Tim Connolly, and here's the news. A recently completed economic-based study presented to the city's redevelopment agency suggests that a regional mall and office complex could be built in the Norwalk Civic Center area. The consultant firm of Robert Charles Lesser and Company was hired by the city to determine the potential for increasing tax revenues in Norwalk. The redevelopment agency will review the report and solicit input from residents at the upcoming Community Congress. The City of Norwalk has officially opened the doors for the newly created Department of Public Safety. Earlier in the week, the City Council was introduced to Kevin Giano, the coordinator of the new department.
Kevin Gano.
Gano, I know. Gaino. Good evening, I'm Tim Connolly, and here's the news. A recently completed economic-based study presented to the city's redevelopment agency.
What happens when you run the same script 3 million times?
Yeah, right.
You got the first line memorized, right?
Uh-huh.
You know who you are? Anytime.
Good evening, I'm Tim Connolly, and here's the news. A recently completed economic-based study presented to the city's redevelopment agency suggests that a regional mall and office complex could be built in the Norwalk Civic Center area. The consultant for the firm, Robert Charles Lesser and Company, was hired by the city to determine the potential for increasing tax revenues in Norwalk. The redevelopment agency will review the report and solicit input to the residents at the upcoming Community Congress. The City of Norwalk has officially opened the doors to the newly created Department of Public Safety. Earlier in the week, the City Council was introduced to Kevin Gaiano, the coordinator of the new department. Gaiano comes to the city with nearly 13 years of police experience and is enthusiastic about his position.
Gaino!
Oh, did I say it again?
It's alright.
And then, is there a picture of those guys talking?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. That'll just come on the prompter?
No. We edit this all together, we piece it together.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
every time, all you do is just...
Just read
do
it.
as if you're on camera the whole time.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because I may not want to cover you.
Here's a rather far-fetched hypothetical question. What would you do if you had 10 kids added to your family in less than 2 weeks? The kids we are talking about are the four-legged variety, of course. Baby goats, that is. Recently, 10 new kids were born to the animal farm at Norwalk Park. All of the newborns are strong and healthy, according to Joe Benelli, the park section supervisor who runs the farm. The goats are the main attraction. Why did I say Benelli? I looked right at it.
Because of probably...
Joe Bonilla. Okay,
The kids.
the kids we're talking about are the four-legged variety, of course. Baby goats, that is. Recently, 10 new kids were born at the animal farm at Norwalk Park. All of the newborns are strong and healthy, according to Joe Benelli. Jesus, why did I do it again? I stare at those L's. Joe Bonilla. What would you do if you had 10 kids added to your family in less than 2 weeks? The kids we're talking about are the four-legged variety, of course. Baby goats, that is. Recently, 10 new kids were born at the animal farm at Norwalk Park. All of the newborns are strong and healthy, according to Joe Bonilla. Jesus Christ. Must be something on my head here. Joe Bonilla. Brother. The kids we're talking about are the four-legged variety, of course. Baby goats, that is. Recently, 10 new kids were born at the animal farm at Norwalk Park. All of the newborns are strong and healthy, according to Joe Bonilla, the park section supervisor who runs the farm. The goats are the main attraction, but they certainly aren't the farm's only tenants. Every day between noon and 4, visitors can see hogs, sheep, ponies, cows, peacocks, pheasants, and an assortment of other farm birds. As for the goats, they do garner most of the attention, and perhaps rightfully so. 10 babies in a week is quite an accomplishment, but they aren't stopping there. A towering landmark since 1979 has been little more than a sleeping giant in recent years. It was known to many as White Lightning, the only thrill ride in Norwalk. That, of course, was a few years ago when the 4-story water slide at Gulf and Stuff was still in operation. We recently went to uncover the Great Water Slide mystery. Our first question was, when was the last ride down the flumes of White Lightning? After a 2.5-year dormant period, White Lightning is ready to ride again. The slide is undergoing a few cosmetic repairs and will be fully operational in time for spring. The grand opening of the slide is scheduled for March 18th. This is News Grief. I'm Tim Connolly. News Grief. Why I was stuck on Joe Benelli. Jesus.
Do you want to do any of the segments or the entire thing over? Do you feel comfortable with what you did?
Sure, I'll do it again. Let's do it again.
If you want. And
Yeah.
I don't want to suggest that you do it, but if you...
Dad, I wonder if I will.
You still rolling? Yeah. Go ahead.
Good evening, I'm Tim Connolly, and here's the news. A recently completed economic-based study presented to the city's redevelopment agency suggests that a regional mall and office complex could be built in the Norwalk Civic Center area. The consultant firm of Robert Charles Lesser and Company was hired by the city to determine the potential for increasing tax revenues in Norwalk. The redevelopment agency will review the report and solicit input from residents at upcoming community congress.
Max agent so successful selling your home or buying a new one? From birth.
Future Remax agents, play has purpose.
Earlier in the week, the City Council was introduced to Kevin Gano, the coordinator of the new department. Gano comes to the city with 13 years of police experience and is enthusiastic about his position. Here's a rather far-fetched hypothetical question. What would you do if you had 10 kids added to your family in less than 2 weeks? The kids we're talking about are the four-legged variety, of course. Baby goats, that is. Recently, 10 new kids were born at the Animal Farm at Norwalk Park. All of the newborns are strong and healthy, according to Joe... You idiot. Joe Benia.
Yeah, let's just go from there.
Okay. The park section supervisor who runs the farm. The goats are the main attraction, but they certainly aren't the farm's only tenant. Every day between noon and 4, visitors can see hogs, sheep, ponies, cows, peacocks, pheasants, and an assortment of other farm birds. As for the goats, they do garner most of the attention, and perhaps rightfully so. 10 babies in a week is quite an accomplishment, but they aren't stopping there. A towering landmark since 1979 has been little more than a sleeping giant in years. I'll start it over. Okay. A towering landmark since 1979 has been little more than a sleeping giant in recent years. It was known to many as White Lightning, the only thrill ride in Norwalk. That, of course, was a few years ago when the 4-story water slide at Golf and Stuff was still in operation. We recently went to uncover the great water slide mystery. Or undercover. We recently went to uncover the great water slide mystery. Our first question, when was the last ride down the flumes of White Lightning? After a 2.5-year dormant period, White Lightning is ready to ride again. The slide is undergoing a few cosmetic repairs and will be fully operational in time for spring break. The grand opening of the slide is scheduled for March 18th. This is News Brief. I'm Tim Connolly.
Norwalk Community Television presents the baseball game of the week. Today, the Alemany Indians against the St. John Bosco Braves. Hello everyone, I'm Anthony Moretti along with Tim Connolly. And Tim, let's take a look at the Delray League standings. No doubt about it, today's game, real crucial.
It is a very crucial game, Anthony. The Alemany Braves lead the Alemany Indians, lead the Braves by 2 games. Alemany, who is 6-1, plays against the Braves this afternoon, who are 3-2-1. They played 3 games in the season. They've already played 1, and Alemany won that. Today's the only home game that they'll play against the Braves, so they'll go back to Alemany in the next game.
And no doubt about it, with the crucial game, both teams, both managers, Tim Ellis and James Ozella, going with the big pitchers.
They'll have to. It's a crucial game, right? Jeff Henderson, who is 7-0 for the Braves, he's also their top hitter. hitting .370. So he's their catalyst and the team leader. Tommy Daniels, 6-3 for the Indians. He'll pitch for them, and he's got a 2.94 ERA with 42 strikeouts. So he's their top pitcher.
You mentioned the offense, a good chance to talk about the offense. For Alemany, no starter hitting under 300, and for St. John Bosco, only one under 285. So, and of course, with the wind blowing out to left field as it is, ball might fly here today.
They've got some big guns on both teams, and you're right, they will. The ball will fly. There's probably a few home runs we'll see, no doubt, and we're hoping for a high-scoring game.
All right, enough talking. Let's play ball. When we come back, we'll have the opening lineups to get things underway. Alemany and St. John Bosco. We welcome you back to Midas Field, where Alemany has just defeated St. John Bosco 3-1 to a large extent because of our guest, winning pitcher in today's game, Tom Daniels. Tom, first of all, congratulations. You really seemed to just keep them off guard all day long. They just didn't seem to know which pitch was coming next.
I tried to. I usually do either a changeup or a curve, and it came out working for the better. My fastball was all right, so it ended up working out for me.
Tim?
Tommy, you were able to mix up your pitches real well this afternoon. Which pitch do you think you relied on the most?
Probably the changeup, because I was able to get that over when I needed it, and it kept them off guard all day. I felt real good today, so I was placing everything pretty good.
Tom, 7 strikeouts obviously gives a good indication of how much you kept them out of control. But talk about the importance really of today's win. I mean, now you guys are 3 games ahead in the league. This is obviously a game coming out on the road you wanted to have.
Yeah, well, I haven't beaten these guys. Well, we beat them last year, but I myself haven't beaten since I was a sophomore. And this feels real good because I got Loyola last week, and it increases our lead to 3 games, like you said, and that's all we want. We really need 2 more games, and we capped it. We got Delray, number 1.
Tim?
Tommy, after a strong game like this, do you think this is your best outing of the season so far?
I think so. One of the 2. I think so. Yeah.
All right. Tom Daniels has been our guest, 3-1 on a 2-hitter. In fact, this is the second 2-hitter of the season thrown by Alemany against St. John Bosco. We'll take one more break. When we come back, Tim and I will wrap things up. Alemany 3, St. John Bosco 1. Our final once again this afternoon, Alemany 3 runs on 6 hits and 2 errors, and St. John Bosco 1 run on 2 hits and 4 errors. And Tim, as you take a look at the game, really the key, the second inning, Alemany pushes across 2 runs, and the way Tom Daniels was pitching, it was over.
Tommy Daniels had one of the strongest games he's had so far this year. He didn't have any trouble whatsoever throughout the whole game. There were a couple of spots where the infielders had a few miscues, but that's normal, and he got out of the inning. The 6th inning, when John Bosco left 2 men on base, and Daniels came back and struck out Henderson for the big 3rd out. So he was unstoppable today, unstoppable.
We talked about 2 hits and the 1 run. They got both of those in the 4th inning when, of course, they were able to push across only the 1 run as we had talked about. So you talk about, and we talked about it with him a little bit in the interview, keeping him off balance, a little out of control. He certainly did that today consistently, and that was the big difference.
It was a big win for Alemany. Now, they pulled 3 games ahead of John Bosco in the standings, and Tommy Daniels he has to be the most valuable player of this game today.
Without question, he certainly was. For Alemany, again, the 3-game lead now, 7-1 in the conference, 13-9 overall. And for St. John Bosco, they dropped their 4th game of the season. More importantly, though, they're only 3-3 in the conference, and certainly the wins that are necessary down the stretch as you play, again, 12 games in the conference, everybody 3 times. As they look ahead now to that last 4-game season, or the last 4 times that they face everyone, they're almost must-wins every time out.
Each game that they face with the remaining teams is a rubber game. The 2 games that they've played in the beginning of the season, they've won each game. So now the rubber game comes through, and they've already have a lead on each team. So they're in the driver's seat right now.
I guess in a sense, when we talked in the pregame about this being a pitcher's duel, it turned out to be just that. And Tom Daniels a little bit better than Jeff Henderson, as we talked about him struggling a little bit with his control a little bit today. That was the big difference. Tom Daniels and Alemany win it 3-1. For Tim Connolly, I'm Anthony Moretti. And for everybody in the truck, we thank you for spending part of your night with us. We hope to see you again real soon. Once again from Midas Field, our final score, Alemany 3 and St. John Bosco 1.
Galaxy Blues. A psychotic killer is on the run.
Mr. Knox, you've got one choice, and one choice only. That is to guide me into those mountains.
Tom Berenger, Sidney Poitier, Shoot to Kill.
There's more